Welcome to Vox Stream, a Kill Team podcast where we aim to help players of all skill levels supercharge their game and separate the signal from the noise. I'm Mark Meyer, joined by Kill Team heavyweights George Pratt and Joe Gallo. We're coming to you from the Triangle region in North Carolina. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. All right, the boys are back in town. George, Joe, what's going on, guys?
Not much, man.
I just got done a couple tournaments. I just got over my awful, horrendous, no good sickness.
Yeah, and I think it transferred to the tournaments because both of those tournaments we played at in the last 2 weeks were fucking sick. So,
yeah, they were.
So we've got a lot we want to go over today. I think it's important to start out by talking about one quick thing that may surprise some listeners. We're not going to do a deep dive into all of the team rules that have come out in the last day or two. We're recording this Sunday morning. And the reason we're going to hold off a little bit is we want to wait for all of the teams to be available to talk about. And that way we can compare, contrast, because right now there's only so much that we can extrapolate by talking about the 8 teams that we have rules for in a vacuum. But we're going to do just a quick little bit of that anyway. So, guys, you've maybe had a chance to look over some of the things that have come out. What stood out to you? Any like big takeaways from the team rules that we've seen so far?
Yeah, so obviously I've been maining scouts for a couple of months now, and I obviously took them to the open, and honestly, scouts are still really good. Losing a body sucks, but they gained a lot of power in their leader. They gained a lot of power in their scouting options. And I honestly think this might be one of those situations like with Corsairs when they originally came out, where I think this team might be pretty well balanced. And also shotguns still hit on twos, so suck me off until I die. So yeah.
Yeah, when I looked at the stuff for scouts, it seems like a good case of internal balance. I mean, the shotguns and the scouting, very core to their identity. And I think that seeing those come through the way they are, very nice. I like the scouting option that they have now that lets them just look at your opponent's Tac Op.
Amazing.
We'll get into some of the stuff about Tac Ops later. George, was there any like really big, bright, shining object in the team rules that you wanted to talk about?
Honestly, not really. A lot of really, really good things have been toned down. A lot of meh things have been brought up a little bit. I just started playing Jaegers, and I'm already disappointed that on average their damage has gone down across the board, more or less. So, it all looks good. Nothing has really stood out to me so far.
Also, bear in mind, George doesn't like any teams.
Yeah, I don't own most of the teams and have played most of them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You don't like any of them. You just own all of them, and then
Yeah.
and then whatever your particular whim is that week.
I hate play this game, actually.
I think for myself, the couple things that really stood out to me is I think we are definitely seeing like a shift down in power in terms of like some of the high end killing potential. When I look, I see a lot of like guns that had blast are sort of being toned down. The Shredder, notably, the one that blasts, it is Torrent now. So that's a little bit, interesting to me. Obviously, Corsairs look like they've gotten definitely like a nice little glow up, but they just don't have any blast anymore. I think one trend across the board that I'm seeing that's interesting is no turn one movement shenanigans for a lot of teams.
Yep.
Shush has been moved to only later in the game. Plunderers for Corsairs, different now. Can't use it on the first turning point. So that all stood out to me as interesting. The only team that we've seen rules for that I've played a lot and was particularly curious about was Commandos. And they've seen like, some of their weaker operatives get a little bit more potential, but, definitely a bummer to see some of the consistency things that have happened to a lot of teams like Relentless going to Ceaseless and Leaders hitting on threes feel a bit more harsh for Commandos. But I mean, they're orcs. Their shooting shouldn't be as good as it currently is anyway.
But hey, knob go to 3.
Yeah, the knob has been nerfed though, because it costs an AP to give out an extra AP. And he has a 5-up save now instead of a 4-up save.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's rough.
And 1 extra wound isn't enough to account for the change in his save.
Oh, 1,000%. That's not even close.
Yeah. The Choppa, or his big Choppa, gets punishing now, and so that's nice. It's fine. I mean, now that I've had my modeled with a Power Claw, and now that it hits the same, I'm probably just going to use the Power Claw.
I think that's a fair assessment for sure. I do want to actually know, because you had said something about the movement shenanigans, turning point 1. Scouts is one of the few teams that does get to do a 3-inch reposition. Jaegers as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, again, we only know the teams that we know right now. So, like, is Vetguard still going to get that? Is are the Hyrotech Circle going to get their forward deployment with the death marks? It's all tough to say.
Let's hope that they come out this week, because that would be really nice. But I'm predicting it honestly will probably come out either like the day the box drops, or maybe the day/week after. But here's hoping.
Well, today, I think the thing that we want to spend the lion's share of our time talking about is the crit ops. So we've learned about how all the crit ops work from today's reveals, or yesterday's reveals, and we can finally try and figure out how we're going to play the game.
Oh yeah.
So, George, just do you want to maybe kick us off? How would you like to approach this?
So I think we should probably start with the crit ops, since those are the missions that we're going to be starting with. And boy, we've got more than 3, which is a nice change of pace.
One thought I had just immediately about this, we obviously do a lot of 3-round tournaments for our locals. And I think for tournaments, it's kind of strange to go to 9 rounds, at least in my experience. But so how do you think this will end up shaking out in tournament play?
I'm sure most people, most tournament organizers will get this deck. They will shuffle their crit ops, and then they will just draw them randomly for each round. And just whatever we get is whatever we get.
Yeah, I will also say too, in talking with Adrian, when talking with him during Nova about this before we even knew what the crit ops looked like, he said likely what would happen is organizers would pick quote unquote what they viewed as the best 3 missions or 4 missions, and likely those will get used the most. So we'll see if people really don't want 3 of these missions and never get used. That's also a potential. Or maybe they're all great. We want to use all of them. Who knows?
Yeah, and it's easy to see why some tournament organizers may not prefer some of these missions. Some of them do look like they can swing really hard one way or the other, but I do think that's going to make for some pretty interesting games.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are super dynamic, which is pretty interesting for only having 3 objectives. And then I'll go over, as from a TO perspective, I'll go over which ones I think aren't great, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm up on almost all of them. Why don't we just go over them?
Yeah. So we've got loot, which is the same as it always has been. Loot is loot.
Loot is loot. Yep.
And secure is similar. You secure the point for 1 action point, and it's scored differently. It's kind of scored more like other GW games, where you score 1 victory point for controlling an objective, and you score another VP if you control more objectives than your opponent.
And with only 3 objectives on the board, that means only 1 player ever can score 2 points per turn on that.
Mm-hmm. We got transmission. 1 objective marker that active operative controls is transmitting until the start of the next turning point. An operative can't perform this action during the first turning point or while within control range of an enemy operative. Victory points are scored at the end of each turning point after the first. If friendly operatives control any transmitting objectives, score VP. If the friendly operatives control more transmitting objective markers than the enemy does, you score a VP.
Yeah, so transmission is just secure, but it doesn't matter who secures it.
It's secure, yes, and it doesn't matter who secures. It will be interesting because somebody's going to have to secure in order for, you can't just both fight over an objective that nobody has transmitted from.
Yeah, then no one scores any points. One thing I'd like to point out, though, for loot and secure is that you cannot loot or secure while within engagement range, where currently you can. So that's been walked back from the 2021 crit ops. because originally you could not do those in engagement range. And I'm not upset about that.
And we see this pretty much across the board that for crit ops, mission actions are not a thing that you can do in engagement range. We've seen some teams that have access to abilities that let you do that, notably Light Fingers for the Corsairs.
I wonder if Kroot will keep Poach, which allows them to do that as well.
And I do believe the Psychic Familiars for the Brood Brothers will get that. We talked a little bit earlier about some of the team stuff. I think, to no one's surprise, most of the newest teams didn't really get much change because they were sort of designed more likely than not alongside the third edition.
Yeah. So let's go on to the next crit up, which is Upload, which this one is weird. I think it's actually good, but it's really weird. There's a lot of shit going on. So Upload is a mission action crit up where you perform the upload mission action, and once you upload on an objective marker, you remove all other upload points from your opponent. Just period. You take all their upload points and you put one of yours on there. What's most notable about this is the only restrictions are you can't do it in the first starting point and you can't do it inside engagement range. So that means that in theory, every operative on the table could upload the same objective marker, just back to back to back to back. Like that's totally possible. So I think it's going to be a huge sort of mission action fight on objectives for upload. I don't think I hate that. And then in order to score, you just need to end the turn with upload points on objectives. You can't actually get more than one upload point on an objective because you can't do it more. If you already have an upload point on an objective, you can't upload that objective. So in order to score 2 victory points on it, you need to upload 2 objectives, and like they need to stay yours with your upload points on them. And so I think it's actually kind of a neat mission.
Yeah, it's kind of like Secure as we know it now, but without the sticky objective. Like it is uploaded at the end of the turn, and then you'd have to do it all again the next turn.
Yeah, it's almost like if Capture required a mission action.
It's an interesting way to think about it. So we've got Intel after that. The mission action, you perform it. One objective marker, the active operative control gains 1 Intel point. Use a dice as a token to keep track of it. Can't perform it within engagement range. Can't do it during the first turning point. Or if that objective marker already has gained an Intel point for the turn. In each turning point after the first, the pickup marker action can be performed upon each objective marker that has at least 1 Intel point. If it's performed, that marker cannot gain any more Intel points.
Yeah, this one, this is one of the ones I don't like. I can see a lot of games being like, I compile Intel, score 1, and then some other dude just picks it up and runs to the back of my deployment zone. Right?
Yeah, and this is an interesting one because it's only scored at the end of the game.
Yeah. I can see this one being very non-interactive, very like, can I get to that middle objective before you? Am I Corsairs? I'll just go and score that right away. And then I have my home objective just compiling intel for a couple turns, and I just play keep away. And like that, it kind of sucks.
I mean, I think that's kind of the beauty of having so many of these is that, like I said, we really can just pick and choose. And from like a TO perspective for you, George, if you're not a fan of them, just don't include it.
Yeah, I think Intel is like the only one that I don't like, just straight up. I would love to be proven wrong. Obviously, I want every crit up to be fun and interesting and playable. I don't want to hate any of these. But I get the feeling that Intel is going to be not a good mission.
Yeah, I see it as something that could be fun and interesting, but maybe not the most balanced. To your point, Corsairs on a short map could probably abuse this pretty easily and really swing a game pretty early. But I think that this would also probably be the one that maybe causes the most rage, in the sense where you spend the whole game stacking intel points on your home objective, and somebody just comes in and presses the button at the end of the game and wipes all that work away.
Yeah, you just pick it up and then you don't have to worry about it. It's yours. Yeah, it reminds me of Secure Architect a little bit of the original crit op missions, and that mission was not particularly well balanced, but it was kind of fun. Yeah, and then the next crit op is Extraction. I just really quickly, every single crit op has a mission action. Interesting. There's not a single one that does not have a mission action.
Yeah, so I think that was probably intentional because I think a big thing people complain about is like
The fact that
um,
Gellerpox and Ravagers can just bully people off objectives with Hulks or dead models.
yeah, it's and at the end of the day, it yeah, I mean also it forces your two APL dorks to actually do something on every mission, and not just do nothing.
Yeah, but with the reduction to 3 objectives, it's not as much of an APL sink as it used to be, which is, I think,
Correct.
fine.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine too.
I wanted to ask you, Joe, specifically as the sort of elite expert here.
Yes.
Since elites really sort of thrived on capture before, at least compared to the other missions, how do you sort of see this change affecting them?
So the big thing is counteract exists. Based on what we've seen from the teams, it looks like they can do part of Astartes is they can counteract from conceal flipping to engage. It seems like the strategy now for a lot of elite teams is going to be probably set up turning point 1 so that you can counteract, haha, in such a way that you can take enough models off your enemy's team so you can do the mission pretty safely. And actually, generally speaking, you're probably going to actually want to be more evened out than like you normally would be, depending on like where the objectives are. So you really want to focus on like probably 2 objectives specifically, and then depending on what you're looking at Tac Op wise, is really going to depend on what you pick, and then obviously your secret op is going to be pretty big too. Um, so it. I don't think the game plan changes much for elites in outside of like, be good at killing, controlled aggression, make sure you don't lose your operatives early. It's just we're gonna have more tools to actually do that now, and be tougher on points because we're gonna be much harder to kill.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, obviously, like shooting and stuff with counteraction is going to be really good, but and typical activation or sequence of activations for an elite team could be, move on to the objective, shoot, and then when it's your chance to counteract, you do the mission action.
Absolutely, I think that's going to be a big thing. Interesting point of order. We'll see what happens with Legionnaire, but if they retain Zeech's ability to get an extra APL, that's going to be massive, particularly with the way the game is
Gonna
right
be
now.
so good.
That's going to be really interesting if they keep that. Right now, it's looking like Nemesis Claw is still like the premier elite killers, but we'll see what happens in terms of which elite team kind of goes to the top. Because I think a lot of people are leaning towards elites because they're thinking they're just not, they're simple, you can't get bullied off points, stuff like that. Particularly in our meta, we're going to see a lot of elites. I think we're going to see a lot of Angels of Death, a lot of Nem Claw now, and a lot of Legionnaire. And we'll see how it pans out. Since it's only looking like one of us will be playing elite teams among us, maybe. So we'll see.
Among the three of us, I and certainly intend to try elites. It's not something I did much in the last edition. A, because I didn't really think Space Marines were cool, and B, I mean, it was just, they were not good when I came into the game, and
Fair.
since I didn't really like them for lore reasons, I wasn't motivated to try them.
Yeah,
but,
that's fair.
I mean, I've got Nemclaw built and painted, so I'm certainly going to put them on the tabletop and see how they do.
I am excited to welcome our Legionary Overlords.
Yeah, I was referencing you specifically, because I'm probably leaning on Aquilons and or Scouts right now. I definitely want to give Aquilons a try. I think they might be a little too fragile for the meta we're about to go into, but we'll see what happens.
The old college try.
Yes.
Yeah. But let's get back to the crit ops. I was talking about Extraction.
Yes.
So the mission action on Extraction is you have to search an objective marker, a marker. And so if it is the last objective marker to be searched, it becomes the Extraction objective marker. And that basically means that one player is going to search their home objective, the other player is going to search their home objective, and that's going to make the objective on the center line the Extraction objective marker for the most part. It's going to be that way for the most part because the first and third time that you do this mission action, you score one victory point. But the second time you do it, the second objective marker to be searched is worth 2. So if the first player searches their home objective, it incentivizes the second player to get a quick objective search off, because otherwise they're going to give their opponent two victory points.
This is going to create some interesting scenarios too. Like, it's going to be a very interesting game of chicken, because one other scenario you could see is somebody gets that quick search off on their home objective. The opposing team then rushes up to the central objective, searches that, making their home objective the one that's worth 2 victory points naturally.
Yeah, and only a few teams would even be fast enough to do it. Like Space Marines are fast enough usually to do that. Corsair, all the elf teams would be fast enough to do that. And so it'll be super interesting. I could see facing against an elf or Space Marine team, especially Phobos. Like, you don't search first. You just shoot them and fight them until they chicken out and search, and then you quickly search so you can get your 2 VP on the second one.
This is probably the one that I'm most excited to try out of the new ones we've talked about so far.
Yeah. Yeah, so once the extraction objective marker exists, then at the end of each turning point, it's worth 1 VP to control it, and it's 2 VP on the last turn to control it, and you can pick it up. But if you pick it up, you shoot and fight worse, and you can't charge or dash. So like, if you pick it up, you score points, but you're severely hobbled. I kind of like this mission. I think it's probably going to be fun.
Yeah, I think this one's going to be fun on a bun. I think it's going to be one of the more low scoring ones, but it's just going to be such an interesting mind game when this one's brought to the table. Sabotage. We've got Sabotage. If the active operative controls the objective marker wholly within your opponent's territory, that marker is sabotaged. You do that for 1 action point. Victory points are scored when a friendly operative performs the sabotage action. At the end of each turning point after the first, you score a VP for each of the following that friendly operatives control: the objective marker wholly within your territory and the marker on the center line. So you score a point for sabotaging your opponent's home objective, and you can score a victory point for controlling the central objective and your own home objective.
Yeah, but most notably, if your opponent has sabotaged your objective, this turning point, you stop scoring points on your home objective. So you still have to do sabotage every turn, which is that's kind of interesting. I like this mission. I think it's going to be. It reminds me of original loot where you can only score it 3 times per objective, and so you needed to get up in your opponent's territory and take their objective. Otherwise, you weren't winning loot. That's sort of what this reminds me of. Like, you need to get up into your opponent's objective and sabotage that, because that's 1 point for you, and it takes away 1 point from them.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one to see, especially when we see how some of the maps look. I think the map that we saw on the live stream was a little bit more asymmetrical, if I'm recalling correctly, because like the central objective was sort of like far on the right side, and then the objectives in everyone's territory were, I think one was more in like the middle of the board and one was more towards the opposite side of the central objective. So stuff like this is going to see, it's going to be very interesting to see how operatives are sort of funneling into like these critical objectives to sabotage.
Yeah, and then being able to place like heavy barricades on stuff as well. I think that will be very interesting.
Do you think we'll see like people using their equipment points to heavily fortify these big objectives, like putting just a bunch of big heavy barricades and then using like small barricades to block movement like we currently do?
Yeah, I could see like razor wire being used to just prevent elf teams from just flying into your deployment zone, more or less. It's like, this is sabotage. Deal with it. It's like, I don't want to. Just move less, please, over in this direction.
So after that, we've got Power Surge. 1 surge objective marker the active operative controls is rerouted as a strategic gambit. In each turning point after the first, 1 player selects 1 objective marker to be surged until the start of the next turning point. The player who does not have initiative selects first, then they alternate thereafter. So this is an instance where we may see some interesting initiative decisions simply based on the mission itself.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. So, since there's an objective in each territory, and you can choose the objective in your territory, it doesn't feel like it really matters who has initiative. You just choose the one that it's in your territory, and then you score reroute power, because when you do it, you score a victory point. And then you need to control a surged objective marker. So once you reroute power, it is no longer surged, it is rerouted. So I can see this mission just being, I will reroute power on my home objective and attempt to control the center, or I will attempt to reroute the center and control my home. And if that ends up being the sort of thing, then initiative matters, because you want to be like, I choose a center as reroute. And then your opponent's not gonna be like, okay, well, I guess I'll just give your home objective an easy reroute, so an easy victory point. Like, that doesn't seem like a solid plan. I think this one will be either really, really fun or really, really bad. I don't think there will be an in between.
We'll round it out with coordinates. The mission action, one objective marker, an active operative controls gains one of your objective points. Use dice to keep track of it. Cannot perform while in control range of an enemy operative, or if that objective marker has already gained one of your objective points during the turning point. For each objective marker that has at least one of your objective points, you score 1 VP, or 2 if that objective marker is wholly within your opponent's territory. For each objective marker that has more of your objective points than your opponent's, score VP.
Yeah, so this is interesting because you push the button as you're controlling it, and so in theory, both players could do the mission action on every objective every turn, if it just sort of works out that way. And so every player will score 2 VP, assuming they get to their opponent's territory, right? But if you can sort of just hold your objective and hold the center objective. Oh no, it's for each objective marker that has more of your objective points on it. You score a victory point. So yeah, if you just sort of hold your objective, your home territory objective, it should be an easy 2 VP, but it should be an easy 2 VP for both players. So this mission sort of seems like kind of like a wash. Oh, it's the end of the 4th turning point, and okay. It's not scored every turn.
I could tell you some of this playing out kind of like how loot plays out currently, where you may use your initiative to sort of rush to the center and push the button just so that you can get the edge on that turning point.
Yeah. So I think the math works out here that if you can put an import coordinates on every objective, and you have more on your home objective and the center, you'll get 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll get 5, 6. That's your 6 points. So you just sort of have to just absolutely smash the your opponent off of the center and keep them out of your territory, and you have to try and rush into their territory and take their objective marker at least once.
So, looking at these 9 missions, what sort of big themes are jumping out at you guys? What sort of things do you think are going to be just drastically different than what we're doing now?
2 APL teams that don't have reliable ways to get APL are going to struggle.
I don't think so. Because there's so many less objectives, you can afford to just put 2 or 3 bodies on there, and that's not 2 APL anymore, that's 4 or 6 APL on an objective.
Well, hear me out. So I think that is what you just said is absolutely correct. However, I think specifically against like stat check teams and elite teams, where since there is only 3 objectives, where with as you're an elite, or if you're like stat check like commandos or like scouts, you can just bully people on the objective itself and get clear out a good amount of folks pretty quickly. So I'm not worried. I think what might happen what might play out is that those teams that I mentioned might be better on. And once again, obviously, it's going to depend on layouts too, because we have set layouts for Volcus, we have set layouts for Beta Decima, and we have set layouts for Into the Dark. We don't have set layouts for anything else. So it's really going to depend on where the tournament scene falls in terms of straight up layouts. But depending on those layouts and depending on how easily accessible each objective are, operative quality in general has gone down for horde teams, while for elite teams they've gone up. And I could just see a scenario where, for example, so the Melta gun is really the only reliable way to potentially one shot or severely injure a Marine. The minute you deal with that, you're just shooting bolters at guys for a lot of the teams that we know for right now. So we'll kind of see how that dynamic plays out. I do think a lot of the context is going to matter on what we're about to, I assume, talk about the Tac Ops, because I think that those are going to much more play into people's play styles as teams and also as players. Because at the end of the day, you can't play around crit ops in terms of what you have access to. You are the one picking your Tac Ops at the end of the day. I think people are going to kind of tend to lean on their Tac Ops because it leans into their team's strengths versus some of these crit ops very much are not going to be in some teams' play styles.
I do agree with you that a lot of horde teams, even with GA2 stuff, is probably not going to be as beneficial on the primary mission than it is currently. So I think it is swinging the pendulum a little bit in the favor of elite teams in that regard, which I don't think is a bad thing yet.
Agreed.
It may be, but I don't think so.
I think the giant question right now is how easy are elites going to be to kill straight up or to injure or get them off points effectively? And if the answer is, oh, it's really hard, it's going to be miserable for hordes and some mid-range teams.
I think one thing that we haven't really considered is command points. Obviously, we can take a team that we know a little bit about, like the Angels of Death, right?
Yes.
We know that they're going to have access to good defensive abilities through their chapter tactics. We know that they're going to have a 3-up save. But you can still roll 1s and 2s. I think we know multiple people, friends of the pod, you might say, who have a propensity for rolling 1s and 2s on their saving throws as elites. So, that being said, I think that there are still going to be AP guns. I think there's still going to be ways to kill elites and stuff like that. I do see the problems as somebody who plays a lot of horde teams of if this is the way we have to play the game. I think a horde player is probably going to have to think more about when is the right time to surge the objective. Maybe a different word would be better, since surging an objective is literally a thing for one mission. But when is the right time to push up and push the button on an objective? Because you can't just throw operatives on there and hope that they survive long enough for you to push the button in those particular matchups. I think there are going to be ways to do it. Sure, you can charge somebody into an elite and they can counteract and kill it, but you only get one counteract with each operative. So there is still an opportunity to push the button and only lose one guy in doing so.
Yeah, because now you can't reliably, with just a bunch of weenies, go 4-2 for 2 or 3 turns in a row.
I know.
And just lose them, right? That's not possible anymore.
So we've talked a lot about these crit ops, and I think they're going to be so much fun. I think we need to get into the Tac Ops to get the full picture of what gameplay is going to look like. I think the place to start is with Recon and the gutting of Recover Item. So Recover Item gets revealed at the start of the game, basically, before equipment is set up, the start of setup operatives. So one thing is that we kind of know that Tac Ops are secret until you reveal them. A lot of times you score a point before you reveal them, which is pretty nice, or you're in a position to score points. This is one of the ones where that's not really the case. Your opponent picks 2 of the locations for your items to recover. One of them is on the center line. One of them is in their territory, you put one in your own territory, and it's only scored at the end of the game, and you have to pick up and control each marker to score full points on it. It's 2 points for each item that is picked up and recovered.
Yeah, it's super interesting because you just have to have picked them up. You don't actually need to control them at all. They just need to have been carried at some point.
That's not true.
Right?
For each of your item mission markers that both the pickup marker action has been performed upon and friendly operatives control.
Okay, I see.
You have to control it at the end of the game.
Yeah. So what this note says,
the operative who picked it up doesn't have to be the one who's controlling it.
Yeah, it just needs to have been picked up at all.
Right.
Yeah, recover item seems hard now.
Certainly hard to max out.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's a theme for a lot of these Tac Ops, is they're hard to max out, but it like scoring them a little bit doesn't seem that hard.
Yeah, I think so as well. We've got confirmed kill. That's the one that we saw in the live stream where you reveal it the first time an enemy operative is incapacitated. You drop the confirmed kill marker within its control range, and you score it at the end of each turning point after the first. Let's see. If a friendly operative controls one of the confirmed kill mission markers, not within enemy operatives control range, and no enemy operatives are within your control range, you remove the marker and score a VP, or 2 if it was placed for an enemy with a wound stat of 12 or more. You can max out with 2 VP on that per turn, and obviously you can kill multiple guys to get multiple markers to try and confirm.
Yeah, seems interesting.
I like this one a lot. I think this is going to be the go-to for a lot of teams.
I think that you're right. I also think that it's surprising to me that this is in Recon and not in Seek and Destroy. This is a Seek and Destroy type of Tac Ops.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Not even a question in my mind. So I think, like, I'm thinking it from right now because just because I have full access to the scout rules right now. This is going to be really good against elites for scouts. It'll also, I might take this against teams that tend to kind of shotgun operatives like super forward and kind of leave them out in the wind.
Like elves?
Like elves. See, you know exactly where my brain's at. So I will say the fact that you can't have anybody in control range of you is rough. Makes it very hard to score sometimes because literally you just need to throw an idiot there.
Yeah, and this is not one of those ones that you score at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Like, you need to score this on each turning point.
Correct.
So, like, this could, against a horde team, a horde player who's keeping their dudes back, like, yeah, you'll mess up a weenie and he'll drop the confirmed mission, and then he just moves a horde dude up and just charges you, and now you're not scoring that on that.
Exactly. So the only thing I will say to that is that it's still scoreable in the scenario you give. It's just you need to make sure you have guys unengaged to deal with those idiots, because he can't just keep throwing idiots on that at the end of the day.
I mean, eventually he'll run out of idiots.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna take this one, make sure you have that side well fortified with guys that can take out other guys. Particularly a melee operative would be a good option to have backed up.
Yeah, and I can see where some of the stuff we've seen that gives, a knife to everybody as an equipment choice. If confirmed kill is your game plan, taking that knife may be helpful, because your only way out, like in that situation where somebody has charged you to try and block you scoring it, is counteracting with a fight. If it is a situation where it's like maybe a mid-range team versus a horde.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We got plant beacons, which we also saw on the live stream. Place one of your beacon mission markers within an active operative's control range, or within the active operative's control range, more than 4 inches from your drop zone, more than 6 inches from other beacon mission markers, with no part of it under advantage terrain. Basically, it's the new plant transponder. Seems like it'll be pretty good, pretty easy to score, but I mean, it is obviously like an action economy, and you're going to have to be mindful of where all your stuff is, just like with the current plant transponder.
Yeah, this seems really, really hard if the beacons don't go away.
And I don't think they do.
It doesn't say they do. So, like, this is going to be really, really hard. You're going to have to really, like, measure a whole bunch of stuff.
So
just so you don't
here's
screw
here's the
yourself here.
question now that we've kind of gone through these three. Is recon bad now?
I think we should reserve judgment on the archetypes until we go through all of them to see like the average difficulty of the Tac Ops, right?
So yeah, so do you think if like everything's hard that it's fine?
Yeah, if everything sucks, then nothing sucks.
Yeah, I think that you can look at this and say recover item is the hardest of the three to probably max out on. I think it's probably the easiest to score 2 points on because you'll just pick up and control the one in your back line. Plant beacons is going to be kind of in the middle, probably. I think to George's point, it's going to be hard to sort of get the trigonometry of where all your stuff is going to be. It's nice that you can plant it, only 4 inches from your drop zone. You can start planting them early.
Yeah.
And kind of web out from there. Confirmed kill, I think, is really interesting, but I also think that it may not be as auto score as it seems to be on paper.
I agree. I think there's a lot of interaction with confirmed kill.
Speaking of killing, we move on to seek and destroy. We've got overrun. Reveal when you score the first victory point from this op. Once per turning point after the first, if an enemy operative is incapacitated by a friendly operative and that friendly operative is wholly within your opponent's territory, when it does so, score a VP. At the end of each turning point after the first, if the total APL stat of friendly operatives that both fulfilled the above condition, that turning point, regardless of whether you scored the VP from it, and are still wholly within your opponent's territory, is 3 or more, score a VP.
So this one is interesting. This is like one Space Marine can get you this, if assuming they survive. So the one Space Marine could score you 2 VP just by running, screaming at an objective, which is kind of nice. Oh no, not even an objective. Just kill an enemy operative in their territory, which is something you're probably going to do anyway.
This is kind of like Route was before, where it's like you want to be a person killing somebody in a forward position, but you just have to stay there. And certainly easier for elites to do than hordes, but not impossible for hordes to do.
Yeah, because hordes would need 2 dudes to do it to
get the second victory
kill
point.
Yeah, to kill 2 enemy operatives. So, and that one's much harder because generally speaking, hordes are lesser quality individual operatives, and so you can't generally rely on a single operative to just like run up into your opponent's dental work and then shank someone and then survive. And so you might have to commit really hard to this Tac Op if you're playing a horde team.
Another one that you may have to commit hard to if you're playing a horde team, storm objectives. Reveal when you score the first VP off of it. At the end of each friendly operative's activation, if it is controlling an objective marker that an enemy operative controlled at the start of the activation, or that's wholly within your opponent's territory, and that objective marker is not contested by enemy operatives, that objective marker is stormed by friendly operatives as turning points. Once each turning point after the first, if an objective marker is stormed by friendly operatives, score a VP. At the end of each turning point after the first, if friendly operatives control an objective marker that was stormed by friendly operatives, score a VP. So if you successfully storm the objective, you score a VP, and if you control a stormed objective at the end of the turning point, you get the second.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. This one's super cool. So all you basically need to do is just run screaming at an objective, kill everyone who's on it, and you've stormed it. Congratulations. It doesn't matter then if your opponent throws models at it and contests it later, you've already stormed it, so you'll get your VP. I mean, you'll have to control it at the end of the turn to score the second.
But you don't need to. You control it with the same operatives. You can reinforce that position later.
So I like this a lot. I think it's super cool. I think for horde teams, this one is much more doable than overrun because like objectives is where they want to be, generally speaking anyway, rather than up in your opponent's dental work, not near anything. But I think this is also pretty doable for Space Marines as well, because they can run up, double fight stuff or double shoot stuff and just like, oh, there's 2 guys on this objective. Would be a shame if my 5 attack, 4/5 chainsword went burr.
Space Marines are really going to enjoy champion, I think. Reveal when you select your first champion, and you do that as a strategic gambit in each turning point after the first, where you select a friendly operative to be the champion for that particular turning point. In each turning point after the first, when your champion incapacitates an operative, score VP. 2 if that operative had a wound stat of 12 or more. And in either case, it's a maximum of 2 VP. So it's either kill a big dude, score 2 VP, or kill 2 little dudes, score a VP for each of them.
This is just the Legionary faction Tac Op. Except the Legionary one is you can't change the champion, where this one you can, so it's not a dud. Like, this one's scoreable. I've maxed out the Legionary Tac Op, which is this guy needs to kill 2 separate enemies without dying. And it doesn't need to be within different turning points or anything. So, like, it's totally doable to just, like, this Space Marine here, he needs to kill 2 dudes. He'll go kill 2 dudes. But, like, this is almost impossible for hordes to score.
Certainly impossible for hordes to max out, you know? Like, maybe your Melta Gunner goes in and kills a dude, but, I mean, unless you're killing a Space Marine, it's going to be hard to see how you're scoring 2 VP on it.
Yeah, I think hordes into hordes, not going to happen. Hordes into Space Marines, you could make this work, but hordes into hordes, not happening. Or even mid-range.
Joe, what are your thoughts on the swathe of Seek and Destroy Tac Ops?
They definitely play into aggressive teams' play styles for sure, which is super nice. But none of them are easy. At the end of the day, you have to be aggressive with these to get them, and that makes you vulnerable. And if a team is good at, counteracting and sorry, I shouldn't use that word. If a team is good at, like, giving good counterplay to that, and trading bodies, it might. I mean, it's gonna depend. It really is gonna depend on map layout.
Yeah, it is like if you're playing against Arbides with their shields with the double parry and they shoot into melee. They're a very defensive oriented play style, and I think they could handle a Seek and Destroy Space Marine team just trying to come up and wreck their face, and just like, I'll just parry you out, and then I'll spend 2 or 3 dudes to shoot you with shotguns.
Yeah.
Moving on to security, as a Vet Guard enjoyer, it's very interesting to look at security. We've got Contain, which is basically hold them back. If there are no enemy operatives wholly within your territory, score a VP, and if none of them are wholly within 6 inches of your drop zone, score a second VP.
Yeah, I like Contain. Contain's interesting.
I like it too because you only reveal it after you score the first VP from it. So you reveal it at the end of the second turning point, and ideally you've already got 2 VP at that point.
Yeah, so it's not terribly difficult if you're on the right sort of map, but it could be terribly difficult, like you're playing into elves or mandrakes who can just teleport around.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly like hold them back is currently like it is a good pick when it's a good pick, and if you just simply cannot pick it into a good number of scenarios, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
But I think that I think it is the same now, where if it's a good pick, it's a great pick.
Yeah.
Secure center is very interesting to me because it combines secure center line and central control. Score VP if the friendly operative's total APL is higher than that of enemy operatives within 3 inches of the center for 1 VP. And the central line component of it is within on the center line, but more than 3 inches from the center, have greater APL than your opponent. So interesting to see how those 2 things still exist, but they're combined into one Tac Op.
I know a lot of players, when they pick security and they choose central control, they're choosing center line with it. And I personally think that is a bad pick. I think that is sort of deflating your ability to control space on the board by having to stand probably where there isn't really much cover. So I think it'll depend on what the Volcus board layouts look like, but I think this one's going to be real hard.
I think it's going to be a lot like central control and secure center line are now, where it's going to be very map dependent. You're simply not going to pick it if you don't have a good spot to hide and score them.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest problem with security, is that currently it's so very map dependent, and 2 out of the 3 that we've gone over are still very map dependent, which I'm not a big fan of.
And it's interesting because take ground is still pretty map dependent because it specifically references things on the map. So in Vulcus, if a friendly operative controls any stronghold terrain feature within your opponent's territory, score 2 VP. For each ruin, large or small terrain feature within your opponent's territory that friendly operatives control, score VP. In Gallowdark, for each access point that's on the center line or within your opponent's territory that friendly operatives control, score a VP. In any other kill zone, for each terrain feature with the heavy trait that is within your opponent's territory that friendly operatives control, score 1 VP. Max 2 per turn. And an operative contests a stronghold terrain feature if it's wholly within its control range.
Yeah, I think this is the best security Tac Op because it is the least map dependent. Just because you just want to get up in your opponent's, just be in your opponent's face and hold the terrain in their territory. Like, this is, as far as security goes, I think the one that is going to be taken most often.
Yeah, it's certainly the most flexible. I think that, I like it because it's.
I don't think it's the most flexible. I think it's the least restrictive.
That's an interesting way to put it. Yeah.
Now to the last archetype is infiltration. So let's start with surveillance. So you reveal it the first time a friendly operative performs a surveillance action. Once you perform it, that operative has gathered surveillance. Can't do it if the operative has an engage order. It must be wholly within your opponent's territory. And there must be an enemy operative that's a valid target for it, which I think is interesting. So you can only perform surveillance if that operative who has a conceal order could, in theory, shoot another operative. And then when you perform the surveillance action, you score a VP. And if a friendly operative that performed the surveillance action is in the kill zone and has a conceal order, you score the second VP. So I think this one is like gather surveillance and the old mark target all wrapped in one. And it has the same problems that mark target has for me in that if I have a valid target to shoot at, I'd rather just shoot at it.
Yes, but now that we're kind of getting the larger context of everything, I think this is probably the best one we've looked at.
It certainly seems easy enough to score 1. But if you really want to max it out, you have to commit more than one operative to not shooting dudes and being on conceal and performing this mission action. So, like, this might be easy to score 1. It might be really hard to max out. I'm not generally a fan, but it doesn't feel out of place with the rest of the Tac Ops we've gone over. Like, it doesn't feel any really harder than the other ones. I just don't like it.
I think this might be my go-to for scouts, to be honest.
Yeah, you want to expound?
This kind of Tac Op punishes real aggressive play, and at the end of the day, you have to just do it once to one guy, and then there's nothing in here that says that you can't just kill that person in the next activation with another guy, right?
Sure. Yeah. It's just that the gather surveillance person has to survive. But and my biggest problem with that is, again, I'd rather, instead of not shooting with someone, I'd rather be shooting with someone. Like, that's just my biggest hang up.
Here's my theory with this one. This is a Tac Op you take when you're trying to collapse a single side. So if you can focus on collapsing a side, taking the home objective there, and doing this, what you can do, because this already plays kind of into how I play scouts already. Collapse. So this is kind of the I guess theory how it will play out. Focus on one side, keep that side going. Do this once, kill that guy on the next activation after you do this. And do you have to just do it once and then you score the points, or do you have to keep doing it?
You have to keep doing it every turn.
Every turn. Okay. So yeah, you just follow that play pattern, right? So just, set up with two. It's a 2-guy setup. It's actually really good if you out activate somebody. because you could just set it up without literally getting punished, unless it's
Yeah,
against elites,
any
I
horde team
guess.
that has infiltration, like I think Chaos Cult, they currently have infiltration. I bet you they'll have infiltration. Brood Brothers have infiltration, right?
Yes, they do. But I just said, now that I thought about it, counteract is a thing, and they can do it if they're on conceal. So I guess you'd have to be. So it would have to be against an operative that's on engage at a distance sufficient enough so you can't just get immediately shot back.
Yeah, but again, you have to. You can only perform the surveillance action wholly in your opponent's territory.
Yes, that's the other thing, is
So
that you
like
would have to be
that
kind of in
that
their.
distance is going to be hard to find.
But like I said, that's the whole theory of collapsing the side point is that if you've thoroughly collapsed one side and you're able to get this efficiently against one or two guys, it should be more than enough, right?
I mean, in theory, like I said, I don't think it's going to be hard to score. I personally don't like it. I'd rather, if I got a shot, I'd rather shoot.
Yeah, I think that this is one where I look at it and it seems like it's going to, the first time you score it, you'll get 2 points. And after that, things are just going to be harder and harder to do. This is a thing that you kind of prepare for the whole turning point and then wrap up with it, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
Implant seems really crazy because it is very different than how we know it now. Obviously, you do it the same way, where you would strike with a dice that does no damage. It implants. You can, let's see, whenever a friendly operative is shooting an enemy operative within 6 inches of it, you can implant with one of those dice instead. That's pretty cool. You score a VP for implanting, and you score a second VP for the turning point if an implanted operative is still in the kill zone.
Yeah, this one is just current implant and old mark target wrapped into one, which I don't like that I said mark target wrapped into one twice, because mark target was the worst tac op ever conceived, period. And they've done it twice. So far 2 out of 3, not a fan of infiltration. I think implant was kind of a trap tac op to begin with. Currently, being able to do it in shooting probably makes it a little better, but again, I think this is one where it'll be really easy to score 1 victory point on this every turn, and I don't know if I personally would ever score this twice. Like, I don't know if I'd ever max this any turn, because if I'm shooting someone or fighting someone, I want them to die. I don't want them to stick around. I want them dead.
It may be that with the changes to some operatives' killing potential, that this is simply a byproduct, though, that like maybe you're going to have a harder time killing operatives. So why not score some VP while you're doing that?
I mean, maybe, but me personally, I'll just send another dude over and try and get the job done. Like, because the way that I play, me specifically, if I have targeted an operative, I have targeted that operative because it will negatively impact my game plan the most. And so I want it removed from the board. And if it is not removed from the board, then I'm gonna have a bad time. So like I don't like implant, because I don't want to implant things. I want to kill things.
So we'll round out the Tac Ops with wiretap. For 1 action point, place one of your wiretap mission markers within the active operative's control range. Cannot do it while within control range of an enemy operative. During an activation in which it was set up, so no teleporting to wiretap, or if a friendly operative has already performed this during the turning point.
I think this one's kind of interesting. So you place a wiretap with someone, and then it gets removed in the next strategy phase. And then in order to score it, whenever an enemy operative starts or ends an action within 2 inches of your wiretap marker, you score a victory point. And at the end of each turning point, if an enemy operative with an engage order is within 2 inches of your wiretap mission marker, you score a victory point. So you're just basically putting little mines down that just score you points. And I think this is the real winner for infiltration. Like, I think this is very doable, very scoreable, very easy, very doable to max. Like if I'm playing infiltration, I'm taking wiretap 100% of the time.
Yeah, I mean, it seems so straightforward. You put it on the central objective or the center line objective and wait for your opponent to come up there.
Yeah. There's no faffing about with not killing dudes because you didn't do dice and you want them alive, or not killing dudes because you instead surveyed them. I just put a wiretap mission and shoot someone. You know, it's this. I think is I don't think this is the best tac op we've seen, but it is one of the best, which is good because the other two infiltration are, in my opinion, total doo-doo. Just to not non-starters, not worth taking ever.
I mean, I think there could be some play with him against operatives that are going to be hard to kill, like Space Marines, but I do think that Wiretap is certainly the clear-cut winner of the three. So what are we thinking? We got all four archetypes. Any big thoughts here? Joe, what do you got?
They're all really hard to max out, which is probably the way it should be. So for me particularly, if I'm thinking like going from a scout's perspective, kill confirm is definitely high on my list. I like wiretap. It's just it's action economy that like I don't think scouts necessarily have, to be honest. Because ultimately we can only ever get 3 APL or 2 APL guys, or 3 APL guys a turn, and that one of them is dependent on the leader being alive, which is not necessarily something I've struggled with recently. But I'm just saying that like any good player is going to be looking to kill him in general. I don't know, man. Scouts might struggle just because all of these are a little hard to score, recon and infiltration particularly.
I think if you go a little less killy on scouts, wiretap seems pretty easy because you could just drop 2 or 3 of them and be relatively defensive about it. But I mean, Joe, you're not a defensive player. You're a very aggressive player. So yeah, that makes sense that you take confirm kill and just shotgun everything to death.
When I look at all of this, I think that it's something where we've talked a lot about how you want to have a game plan. You want to approach each game knowing what you want to do. And I think that this, like the way that we've seen these tac ops, it is really going to force players to do that more than we currently do. I think you can take Seek and Destroy currently and just go kill things and score points. And I think you can call that a game plan. But I think that these tac ops are going to require all players to be much more cognizant about where everybody is in the kill zone at all times.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing. I like that they're all kind of hard to max. I like that you need to, since you can only take one of them, they're sort of like your game plan for that mission, how you're dynamically changing the crit op itself. And like my perspective as like coming from playing Legionary, I like Storm Objective, I like Champion. I'm sure they'll get Security, which I'll never take, but like take rounds, not bad. But like playing Jaegers who have Infiltration and I think Seek, like I'll take Wiretap all day with Jaegers. They're kind of slow. They're much more defensive. I'll just place 2 or 3 wiretaps and like set them up near those mines and just like, yeah, move around the board, take damage, score, give me points. That's fine. Whatever, do your thing. And like Hand of the Archon, I'm sure we'll have Recon and Seek and Destroy. And like I like Confirm Kill. I like Plant Beacon with Hand of the Archon. I like Overrun. Not a big fan of Champion because the Crimson Duelist can't double kill. But like I'll take Champion into elites and like, that'll be fine. I think there's a lot of play here. I do think Infiltration is the big loser just because, in my opinion, 2 of them are non-starters, with Security being harder than the average archetype. But not by much. I think they're all pretty solidly balanced against each other.
Yeah, and I also think that you'll find yourself getting a better idea of what your opponents are taking pretty early on in the edition. I think people will know when you're going to take Champion. People will know when you're going to take Contain. Those sorts of things I think are going to make themselves apparent pretty soon. And I think that's where a lot of the sort of dynamic gameplay is going to come from, is not only making your game plan, but making your game plan and making it around what you are anticipating your opponent's game plan will be.
Yeah, like I like contain a lot with Arbites. Because Arbites are super defensive and they're really good at just stopping people before they get to your territory, and if they do, you've got backup shotguns to take them out.
And assuming that Gellerpox still have Seek and Destroy and Security, I mean, Contain is exactly what I would want to do with my sort of reactive playstyle with Gellerpox. Like, come to me, or else I'm just going to score.
Yeah.
And when you come to me, I am going to charge and fight.
You're just going to shove Hulks down their throat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems good.
We've spent a ton of time talking about this, and there's still a lot more to talk about. I want everybody just impulse before we move on to some of our tournament talk. What, if you are picking right now, what do you think is going to be your go-to for your primary op? What do you think it's going to be?
Oh man. I truly couldn't tell you. I think some of the Tac Ops are pretty solid, but some of the crit ops are also solid, and like kill op is solid. None of them seem to stick out in a way where, like, yes, I'm gonna score 5 or 6 points on this, or I'm gonna score 5 or 6 points on that. Like, all of them seem like, I mean, I could focus on the Tac Op, but then the mission might suffer. I could focus on the mission, but the Tac Op might suffer. Maybe the kill op might suffer. Yeah, I think this is super dynamic, and not having a quick answer to that question, I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that we've come from a meta where so many decisions on like how you're going to score are just automatic. Like, you're going to take the one good faction Tac Op you have, and there's a reason why you're taking it, because you're almost guaranteed to score it. You're taking the 2 best of your Tac Ops that you currently have available to you, and most of the time it's not much of a question. So to have so many interesting choices and just nothing jumping out as the obvious one, I mean, I think that the only thing I can say for certain is that there are probably some of these crit ops that after we play through them, you are just automatically not going to pick that as your primary op. But it's still too early to tell.
Yeah, that one where you pick up the intel, I think intel is going to be super, super low scoring. I think you're just not going to choose that one as your primary op.
I talked in the last pod about the Triad Kill Team Tournament, the first Kill Team Tournament in Greensboro, North Carolina. We just came from that yesterday. George won Best Painted with his Hurricane Jaegers, and Joe won second place with his Scouts.
Yeah, hell yeah.
You and I squared off in the second round of that tournament, Joe, and it was a fantastic game. It's an identical rematch from a game you and I played maybe like 3 or 4 weeks ago. It was secure on ITD. Is it not Hangar? It was a store, I think.
Maybe, I don't remember. Fuck those maps. We don't have to worry about them anymore.
Yeah, we're never playing on any of those maps again. RIP. But it was such an awesome game, and it really reminded me about like what makes you such a good player is you just were able to really like change your play style in a way to sort of react to how you were anticipating me playing. I certainly could have maybe like come out on top of that. I probably lost because I misplayed the final turn. And also I wasn't prepared for the way that you were able to sort of reinforce one of the side rooms. But I am so proud of you, because after 2 games of me killing your leader, basically immediately on turning point 2, you used it as a strong utility piece and went in with to kill in turning point 3 and 4. So, I mean, bravo on a job well done.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. You played a great game. Gellerpox and Into the Dark is a fucking nightmare. And you played to their strengths. I think that I took away from our last couple games some important lessons about playing against Gellerpox in general. Plus, I mean, I also think playing against you specifically was obviously in my head the whole time. Also, my other opponents played great. Shout out to Mitch being a good sport. I had a very good plan going into him, and it went very well. And also shout out to my first round, who was playing Clowns. He was a very new player. And
yeah, Michael, I played against him too. He's a
Yeah,
really nice guy.
very nice guy. Wish him all the best in the new edition. And shout out to Daniel for doing the hosting and building this community up strong. I look forward to the next one.
I think we also need to mention how friend of the pod, Mark French, has cleaned house these last 2 weekends. He won first place in the Triad Kill Team tournament, and he won first place in our first monthly tournament. Him and I squared off in the final round. Legionnaires versus Hearthkin Salvagers in that game, and that was a tight one down the end. George, you want to talk about your monthly tournament a little bit?
Yeah, we had a first monthly tournament. I'm going to do them obviously monthly, second Saturday of every month, excluding November. The store has a Geek Garage sale sort of thing. The second Saturday of November every year. And it's just a small local tournament. $10 buy-in. Max of 20 players. We tend to hit around 10 to 12. On average. So it's a solid 3-round tournament with generally 2 undefeated players. We've got a really, really good expansive scene here in the Triangle. So I think hopefully with the price reduction to $10 brings more people in, because $20 every month is really expensive actually. But $10 every month is it's pretty doable. And I just want to say that for the Triad tournament, I had a great time. I brought Jaegers, which I had built last weekend, and I won Best Painted with my beautifully painted single warrior. The rest of the team was still primed white.
We're going to post that picture in the show notes.
So
100%. Me and Daniel, and Mark, we were sitting playing our game between me and Mark, and Daniel comes out to us and he goes, "Yo, what if I gave George Best Painted as a joke?" And me and Mark looked at each other and went, "Yes, absolutely do that. Not even a question in my mind. Do it."
Funniest shit I ever heard.
Exactly.
Yeah. That was literally the first time I had ever played Harmkin Jaeger. And I came out of that tournament 5th. I won 2 out of my 3 games. I lost to first place. And I would have tied him had I bothered to measure. If I had gotten used to the 4-inch movement, I could have tied him in that game and knocked him out of first place, and Joe would have won. Which is a thing that I do to Mark a lot, is I'll knock him out of the podium quite often with a really, really close game. But this time he managed to squeak it by, and it was super fun.
So I got to play Hearthkin Salvagers in the local tournament, and that was a lot of fun. It's been so long since I've shot big guns the entire length of the board, and it's just so much fun.
Yeah,
I love
that's
it.
the same thing when I stopped playing Gellerpox and moved on to a team with guns. I went, oh my god, I can just shoot you? I don't have to move up the board?
Yeah, I'm all the way back here, safe and sound. So great. It was a lot of fun. It reminded me of so many things that I just love about other teams. I do love Gellerpox, so I was so happy to play them yesterday for one last round in the second edition. Played a lot of great games and lots of great stuff. Tournament talk that needs to happen. So we've got our next monthly coming up October 12th at the Gamers Armory in Cary. I am going to be hosting a tournament on that second Saturday in November in lieu of the monthly tournament. That's going to be November 9th at the Gathering Place in Chapel Hill. Details on that should be coming out in the next week or two after this episode airs. And just a little teaser, we've got the Triangle Open returning next year, and it's probably going to be bigger and better than ever. Without giving too much away, may not be the Triangle Open, maybe the North Carolina Open.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be bigger. It's definitely going to be better, and I may need to expand our region name. Yeah.
So lots to look forward to there.
And also, bear in mind, we're going to be in the new edition, so all the hot techs, all the spicy strategies, stay tuned.
Why would you put a bear in your mind?
How would you bear on these nuts?
Got him.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Vox Screen. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. Please follow, subscribe, and leave us a review. Any of those things are going to help us grow. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another episode.